William Wordsworth is without doubt, without question, without dispute, without contention, the greatest nature poet of the English language. Some would say of world literature. Wordsworth fell in love with nature as a child. It was very fortunate that he was born in Cockermouth, which is on the fringes of the Lake District, and that he was able to spend a very significant part of his life in the Lake District. And the Lake District is romantically beautiful. It is easily the most beautiful part of England. Wordsworth refers repeatedly to nature in his poetry, writes constantly about nature in his poetry, and he has created a corpus of nature poetry which is substantial and which cannot be matched by the work of any other poet, at any rate by any other English language poet. Wordsworth wrote repeatedly about nature. He was never tired of eulogizing the beauties of nature, the beauties of the English countryside. And a British professor once told me, if you want to see the English nature in all its glory, don't go to England. Read Wordsworth. Nature to Wordsworth was not something inanimate, inert, insensate, but something living, warm, vibrant. And his relationship with nature was interactive. Nature was to Wordsworth an unfailing source of joy, solace, comfort, guidance, and inspiration. Without any exaggeration, it can be stated that his passion for nature became the fundamental bedrock of his life and the prime inspiration for his poetry, and an unfailing source of inspiration at that. It is not enough to say that Wordsworth loved nature. Of course, he loved nature with all his heart. He loved nature beyond words, though he frequently used words to express and explain that love. He did not merely love nature, he worshipped nature. And the worship of nature became for Wordsworth something of a religion. And at certain points in his life, it would appear that Nature worship had taken the place of Christianity. Wordsworth saw God in nature. He was a pantheist. He saw God in every part of nature, in every aspect of nature, in fact, in every part and every aspect of the universe. The poetry of Wordsworth is a religious text. If nature worship were a religion, its Holy Bible would certainly be the collected poems of William Wordsworth. Let me conclude this brief discussion by quoting 4 lines from Wordsworth's poem, The Tables Turned. I quote, "One impulse from a vernal wood may teach you more of man, of moral evil and of good, than all the sages can." Unquote. Let me carry out a brief overview of the circumstances under which resolution and independence came to be written. Wordsworth actually came across a leech gatherer not far from his home, Duff Cottage, in Grasmere, on October the 3rd, 1800. This is recorded in his journal. The leech gatherer, a poverty-stricken old man struggling to make a living through the hazardous occupation of gathering leeches, certainly impacted the consciousness of the poet powerfully. However, Wordsworth did not put pen to paper immediately. Nearly 1.5 years later, in May 1802, Wordsworth gave shape to Resolution and Independence, which in its first version was titled The Leech Gatherer. The creation of Resolution and Independence perfectly exemplifies Wordsworth's famous definition of poetry, embodied in his preface to the Lyrical Ballads. In his preface, Wordsworth defines poetry as a spontaneous overflow of powerful feeling, and explains that it takes its origin from emotions recollected in tranquility. Wordsworth meets the leech gatherer, and the meeting is certainly a momentous encounter. though it was probably not apparent at that point of time. About 1.5 years later, Wordsworth recollects the emotions generated by the Leech Gatherer in his mind, and the result is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feeling called resolution and independence. Let us focus critical attention on the title of the poem, Resolution and Independence. In the early drafts of the poem, Wordsworth titled it not Resolution and Independence, but The Leech Gatherer. I think The Leech Gatherer is the more famous title of the poem. Even today, the poem is known, especially among students, as The Leech Gatherer rather than as Resolution and Independence. The leech is a worm which sucks the blood of its victim. I think it can be parasitic, it can also be predatory. Wordsworth actually met a leech gatherer not very far from his home, Dove Cottage, in Grasmere, on October the 3rd, 1800. He was a poverty-stricken old man. Leeches were used in medicine to draw blood. In fact, they were used as late as the 19th century. Leeches are found near ponds, in bogs, in marshes. In collecting leeches is a dangerous and difficult profession. The leech gatherer, whom the poet met on October the 3rd, 1800, is the central figure of the poem. He makes a living with great difficulty by collecting leeches. The life and the attitude of the poor old man teach the poet many important lessons, and the poet's meeting with the leech gatherer turns out to be a monumental encounter. However, Wordsworth felt that the title of the poem had to be revised, and so changed its title from The Leech Gatherer to Resolution and Independence. The new title has two parts. Let us first examine the second part of the title, Independence. What is independence? Being free of control, being free from influence. India gained independence in 1947. I don't want to live in my mother-in-law's flat because I value my independence. Through resolution and independence. The word resolution has several meanings, many of which are extremely appropriate to the context. The first meaning of resolution is determination. Determination and independence. These are the values personified by the Leech Gatherer. And these are the values imbibed by the poet from the Leech Gatherer. Resolution and independence are two values which found a very significant place in the life, in the actual life of William Wordsworth. It was after much determined effort, after much resolute struggle, that Wordsworth became a successful poet, a famous poet. Wordsworth prized the value of independence above everything else. He loved living in lonely cottages, such as Duff Cottage, such as Rydal Mount. He loved walking through desolate moors. He preferred sparsely populated villages to densely populated cities. So, resolution and independence, determination and independence are the two values that the leech collector teaches the poet, and the poet teaches us. The second meaning of resolution is decision, especially a firm decision. New Year resolution. My New Year resolution for this year was not to have any New Year resolution. Resolution and independence. Decision and independence. After meeting the Leech Gatherer, the poverty-stricken old man, the poet takes a resolution. The poet takes a decision to value his independence. Yet another meaning of resolution is solution. We sometimes say the problem has been resolved, solved. If you read the poem carefully, you find that the poet at one point suffered from stress, anxiety, worry, suffered from a host of psychological problems, and that these problems were resolved after he relived in his imagination his momentous encounter with the Leech Gatherer. Thus, the title of the poem can mean determination and independence, decision and independence, solution and independence. It cannot be denied that William Wordsworth has chosen a very appropriate title for the poem under consideration. A title which is pregnant with significance.